lot to try to finish today. So in the PDF version, we left off around line 695 or so. Oedipus and Creon are going back and forth. Oedipus is quickly losing his temper, has already lost his temper. Creon says, what do you want? You want me banished? Oedipus, no, I want you dead. So I'd say he's already lost his temper. Just to show a grudge? Oedipus, no, you don't think I'm serious. I think you're insane, etc. Okay? So, Jocasta comes in. They go back and forth. Let me back up. Oedipus says, in response to Creon line 703 or so, Creon says, what if you're wholly wrong? What if you are entirely wrong? He's saying, what if you kill me and you're wrong? No matter, I must rule. Not if you rule unjustly. Hear him, Thebes, my city too, not yours alone. Oedipus is saying, as king, the city's mine. Creon is saying, as a citizen of the city belongs to the people. Okay? I must rule, not if you rule unjustly. And so Sophocles introduces this notion of just versus unjust rule. This is going to be an important theme in the next play. Okay? Because in the next play, Creon's going to be king. And he's going to be like Oedipus on steroids. Okay? So, the leader of the chorus pleads for them to calm down, and then Jocasta comes in. Listen to her. Have you no sense? Poor misguided men, such shouting. Why this public outburst? Aren't you ashamed, with the land so sick, to stir up private quarrels? Now, you could read her speech as having kind of two messages. One, cut it out, obviously. Two, take it inside. Go behind the doors if you're going to argue. Don't do it in public. Okay? And then she turns to Oedipus. Okay? She's queen. Into the palace. Now. Who does she sound like? Go ahead. Couple of you are smirking. His mother. Well, because she is. She doesn't know it. To her brother. Creon, go home. Why make such a furor over nothing? What's the nothing? We're going to hear her explain later, but she's already kind of keyed into or tuned into this. The prophecies. Okay? So, Creon says, your husband wants to kill me. Oedipus, I caught him in the act. Plotting to stab me in the back. I would never do that. Creon replies, okay? Jocasta says, Oedipus, honor the solemn oath he swears to heaven. Okay, he didn't say by heaven. He just says, never curse me. That's the oath. May the gods curse me if I did this. Okay? So, chorus says, believe it, sensible, be sensible, king. Give way, I beg you. What does give way mean? Doesn't mean believe me. Relent. Give it up. Take it back almost. Giving way. Okay, I'm going to say something. This applies to all presidents. That is, all presidents that I've known in my lifetime. Not personally known, obviously. None of them is ever willing to admit error. Why? It's because they're all ego-filled idiots? Might be. I'm not saying that's the reason. It's because they can't admit it because of the seriousness of the office of the president. All kinds of legal ramifications could come about. So, even when it's proven mistake or an error of judgment. They won't admit that it was an error of judgment. They'll obfuscate, well, if you knew everything that I know, blah, 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 okay? So the chorus says, give way. Admit it. Oedipus, what do you want from me? Concessions? Respect him. Then show Crayon a little respect. He's not been an idiot. He's not been a fool in the past. You know what you're asking? I do. What's the chorus asking? The man's your friend, Oedipus. He's your kin. He's under oath. He swore to the gods. Don't cast him out, disgraced, branded with guilt. Know full well, if that is what you want me dead or banished from the land. If I do what you say, this is what it will result in. Foreshadowing tragic irony. Okay? Never. All right, let him go then. All right, let him go. Okay? So, Crayon leaves. And Jocasta is still standing there. Oedipus is still on the stage somewhere. And the chorus asks Jocasta, why are you still standing here? She says, tell me what happened. Loose, ignorant, stupid talk. You know, alcohol. If it were today, we would probably say something like alcohol and testosterone filled, whatever. Okay? What did they say? You don't need to worry about it. No, tell me. Okay? So she tells Oedipus, because the chorus won't fess up. Tell me what is wrong. Why this rage? Notice, rage is not rational. Rage is not logical. Rage doesn't make sense. He says, I will. I'll tell you more than these men here. Okay? Crayon's to blame. Crayon schemes against me. Tell me clearly. In other words, he's just blurting stuff out there. He mentions prophecy. 778. A prophet, Jocasta. Okay, free yourself from any of every charge. Let me tell you about prophets. 784 and following. She talks about a prophecy. An oracle came to Elias and me one day. She tells the whole story. Okay? We delivered the baby, herdsmen took him, flung him on the mountain. End of story. What happened to that prophecy? Okay? Oedipus. 801. Strange hearing you just now. My mind wandered, my thoughts racing back and forth. What does he mean? My thoughts wandered racing back and forth. Back, time-wise, and forth to the present. Up here, he's going, how do I make sense of this? He says, so you said Elias was killed at a place where 3 roads meet, right? She said, yeah. That's the story. And where was this? Place called Sophocles. I had it on the board the other day, right here, you know. You have this, come on, 2 roads like that. This was Sophocles. I kind of wonder if that is the source of the word focus in English, which comes from Latin, which could have come through Greek, you know, because it's the focal point of those 3 points. Or if the name for that comes from the word for focus, all right? When? How long ago? She goes, you know, heralds no sooner reported Elias dead than you showed up. Now, I think that's a problem with the chronology within the play. Because what doesn't that account for? The heralds report back that Elias is dead, which means what wasn't out in front of the city by the time the heralds get back? The Sphinx, because they could have gotten in. But between the time of the heralds getting back and Oedipus showing up, the Sphinx is there. Okay? So, heralds no sooner reported Elias dead than you appeared, they hailed you king of thieves. So it looks like the heralds go in, and then a couple hundred yards behind them is Oedipus. So I think, chronologically there's an issue. What haunts you, Oedipus? He says, not yet. Describe Laius. She said, swarthy, dark hair, kind of going gray on the temples. Build-wise, looked like you. Should be a little bit of an indicator of something. Oh, no, I think I've just called down a dreadful curse upon myself. I simply didn't know. Remember my definition of tragedy. When a tragic hero, male or female, is forced by circumstances to take a decision and make an action, or make a decision and take an action, without having all the information he or she needs in order to make that decision. She's like, what are you talking about? I have a terrible fear the blind seer can see. Why? Because he's going to go on and talk about having met somebody at that very place and killed him. Okay? Oedipus goes on, 847 and following. Talks about being raised in Corinth. His father was Polybus, his mother was Merope. Went to a party. The guy drunk said he was a bastard. He went to his parents. They said, don't worry about it. It's not true. He went to the Oracle at Delphi. The Oracle at Delphi told him, quote, 873, you are fated to couple with your mother. You will bring a breed of children into the light no man can bear to see. You will kill your father, the one who gave you life. Who did that sound like? Sounds like the child that was prophesied about for Laius and Jocasta. I heard all that and ran. I abandoned Corinth. Okay? And he says, I made my way, 884, to this triple crossroad. I saw a herald, I saw a wagon, I saw a man in the wagon, I saw 5 guards. I killed them all, except for one. That one escaped. Even though he says he killed them all. Line 899. If there is any blood tie between Laius and the stranger, what man alive more miserable than I? How does he mean more miserable than I? I killed the king. I am the corruption prophesied to Creon. Notice what he doesn't think. I'm Laius the son and you're my mother. Okay? So the leader says, well, let me go back. He says, I am the man, no alien, no citizen, welcomes to this house, 903 or so. 907, and you, his wife, I have touched your body with these, the hands that killed your husband, cover you with blood. I'm your husband's murderer, he's afraid. Wasn't I born for torment, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, they send for the shepherd. What shepherd? The man who brought word back that Laius was dead, and that he, the shepherd, and they, Laius and his group, were set upon by a band of thieves, multiple killers. If he still holds to the same number, Oedipus says, 933 or so, I can't be the killer. Why? Because the man I killed with 5 or 6 guards, I was alone. there weren't more of me. That's what he's counting on. Jocasta says. He can't change his word now. Okay? So, Oedipus and Jocasta leave. Chorus takes center stage, so to speak. And the chorus talks about 3 things. First stanza, destiny, also called fate. Destiny guide me always, destiny find me filled with reverence, pure in word and deed. Great laws, what are those great laws towering above us? They're not literal laws like we think of. Like, what's in the Constitution and laws that get passed by legal groups. These are what are in the next play are going to be called The great, unshakable, unwritten traditions. Here's a couple. Don't kill your parents. Don't kill your siblings. Don't sleep with your parents. Don't sleep with your siblings. Those pretty much hold for many cultures. They definitely held for ancient Greece. Okay? Next stanza. Pride. Pride breeds the tyrant, violent pride, gorging, crammed to bursting with all. Why is the chorus going off on pride? Again, the chorus comments on what's been said before, and it kind of gives us some foreshadowing about what's to come. Where have we heard much about pride? Crayon introduced it in his conversation with Oedipus, talked about his stubborn pride. Okay? But if any man, 972, comes striding high and mighty in all he says and does, no fear of justice, no reverence for the temples of the gods, let a rough doom tear him down. Remember, I told the story of Agamemnon and such. For them, walking on that red carpet, that was enough to be considered this kind of pride. Okay? Last part. Never again will I go to Delphi. So the first part of the chorus of speech is about destiny or fate. The second part is about pride. The third part is about prophecy. Notice, never again will I go reverent to Delphi, skip the next three lines, unless these prophecies all come true. What's the chorus saying? If these prophecies, which ones? Because two have been told. The ones told to Laius and Jocasta, and the one told to Oedipus. The chorus is saying, if these prophecies do not come true, the hell with the gods. Because they're liars. And there is no such thing as fate. And it's just, a crapshoot. We don't need to, seek to placate the gods if these prophecies aren't real. And then he says, or the chorus says, 994, they are dying, the old oracle sent to Laius. Now our masters strike them off the rolls. Nowhere Apollo's golden glory now. The gods go down. The chorus is essentially saying, if the prophecies are false, then so are the gods. And I don't mean the gods are liars, like I said a moment ago. I think the chorus means there are no gods. This is it. We're it. Okay? That's what Socrates, I mentioned before, last week, that's what Socrates was accused of doing to the young men of Athens, of teaching them that there were no gods. Socrates, not true. He said, I believe there is one God. All these other gods, and he mentions them by name, Zeus, Apollo, Athena, these are nothing but blown up humans, blown up, increased in size. Because look, they have all the same human attributes and appetites and passions. That is not godlike. That is not according, Socrates said, to the divine nature. Okay? So, Jocasta comes back out and says, it seems to me I should visit the temples of the gods. So right after the chorus talks about the gods may not even exist, she comes out and offers her branch, her offering, and bows before the temple and prays. Okay? And a messenger comes in. Now, one way you could read that is the messenger is what? Response to prayer. She prays, the messenger comes in. Why is the messenger here? He says, I'm looking for the palace of Oedipus. It's right here. Oedipus is inside. Send word for him. Okay? Jocasta says, who sent you? 1024. Corinth. I'll give you the message in a moment. You'll be glad. A little bit of sorrow. She goes, what is it? The people of Corinth want to make Oedipus their king. She's like, is it Polybus still alive? Nope. He's dead. You're saying Polybus is dead? Yep. Get Oedipus out here. Why? What is Jocasta thinking? The prophecy is false. Oedipus is Polybus' son. Oedipus ran away. Polybus died. Oedipus had nothing to do with Polybus' death. Ergo, Latin for therefore, Oedipus cannot have been the murderer of Polybus. You prophecies, line, whatever that is, 1030 or so. You prophecies of the gods, where are you now? This is the man that Oedipus feared for years. Not the messenger, Polybus. He fled him not to kill him, and now he's dead, quite by chance. A normal, natural death, not murdered by his son. Okay? Oedipus comes out. She tells him before the messenger can get a word out, Polybus is dead. Okay? And she tells Oedipus, again, 1060 or so, why look to the prophet's hearth, the fires of the future? Why scan the birds that scream above our heads? They winged me on to the murder of my father. Oedipus says, did they? That was my doom? Look, he's dead and buried, hidden under the earth. Here I am in Thebes. I never put hand to sword, etc., etc. They're nothing, worthless. What are those prophecies I feared? Go back to the chorus's last words before Jocasta came in. Unless these prophecies are fulfilled, I will never reverence the gods anymore. Okay? She says, I told you so. Yeah, but, he throws out there's still that dream. There's still a matter of my mother's bed. But my mother's bed surely I must fear. Jocasta, fear? What should a man fear? It's all chance. Chance rules our lives. What does she mean? What should a man fear? It's all chance. Chance rules our lives. Because she goes from what should a man fear to chance in everyday living. She seems to be suggesting you can't fear the unknown. If you were so fearful of today that something horrible was going to happen, would you get up and get out of bed? No, it doesn't make any sense because everything is unknown. Ties back to Socrates a bit. Socrates is getting ready to die. He's been convicted by the Senate. His friends, Plato among them, his friends have bought off a guard so that Socrates can escape Athens. He says, no. They're like, but aren't you afraid to die? He says, no. No, there's no reason to fear death. Why? Because death is unknown, and we don't fear the unknown. We fear the known. Do I walk into class fearing that one of you might have a gun? No. I would walk into class fearful if I saw one of you holding an AK-47 or something. That would be radically different. Or if I was driving into work, I use this example in my first class. I was driving into work and listening to the radio, and suddenly there was an alert or something, there is a mass shooter on the MTSU campus. Yes, I would then fear coming to work. I would promptly turn around and go the other direction. Because that's just prudence that says, don't go where the danger is. Notice what she's saying. Chance rules our lives. You can't prophesy chance. Chance is totally random. She's saying, I had written over here, God's fate, us down here. There is none of this. Because fate implies there's an order. Everything is set in place. It's just knock the first domino. Okay? She's saying, nope. Not a man on earth can see a day ahead, groping through the dark. We're going to read a poem at the end of the semester. I think it's the last day. We're going to read two poems that the first one has this entire play as its basis, essentially. set in the 19th century hotel overlooking the English Channel, a guy making a play for a girl. They're there together, but they don't do anything because he's going on to this kind of Sophoclean mind game about what does it all mean kind of a thing. She says, you can't see a day ahead groping through the dark. Why? Because the day ahead is unknown to us. None of us knows what's going to happen 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours from now. God forbid, but one of us could not be here tomorrow because that individual died from a car wreck. It could happen. Better to live at random best we can. Meaning, better to just take what life throws at us. And for the marriage thing with your mother, oh, come on, Oedipus. It was a dream, she says. Many a man before you in his dreams has shared his mother's bed. Notice, Oedipus didn't say, I've dreamed of this. She's saying the prophecy is based upon this kind of dream. It's kind of like she went around and took a poll of young men. Did you ever dream about sleeping with your mother? Yes, okay, there's one. And she goes around, and the preponderance, the majority is they've had that kind of dream. She goes, it's just a dream. Take such things for shadows. Shadows. I can hold this phone over this podium, and with the very diffuse lighting, barely see it, but there is a shadow there. The shadow is not the same as the reality. Sigmund Freud bases almost all of his psychoanalytical theory on this idea. It's called the Oedipus complex, or Oedipal complex, which is that the problem with most men is that they secretly want to sleep with their mother and kill their father. The reverse of that, or converse of that, for women, is the Electra complex. Another play by Sophocles, that women want to kill their mother and sleep with their father. That's the primary problem with all of humanity, okay? On the basis of a couple lines of Greek poetry 2,500 years ago. All right? So, she says, live, Oedipus, as if there's no tomorrow. Right? Why? Because we don't know that there is Sophocles' point. Oedipus, yeah, well, brave word. Easy for you to say, and you'd persuade me if mother weren't alive. No, I can't live like that. Why? Mom, Merope, is still alive. Yeah, but your father's dead. You didn't kill your father, so the prophecy can't come true. He's like, yeah, but the second part can. And that would be as bad as the first. Okay, I won't go down to Hades, the realm of the dead, once I die, guilty of my father's murder, but I would go down guilty of incest with my mother. Okay? And the messenger's like, whoa, stop. Who are you talking about? Who's this lady you're referring to? Merope, the wife of Polybus. What do you fear in her? Well, a prophecy. Can you tell me if it's not private? Oedipus tells him. You're afraid of that? That kept you out of Corinth? 1098. My father, old man. Like, come on, stupid. So, well, boy, I can bring you even greater news. The first good news is you're going to be king. What's even greater news? Polybus wasn't your father. Okay? My boy, 1105. It's clear you don't know what you're doing. Okay, my boy. He's talking to the king. He's just a lowly messenger, but he's old. And he probably doesn't really care much what Oedipus can do to him. Okay? Oedipus, what do you mean, old man? Talking down to him. If you ran from them, well, of course, well, you would be covered with guilt if you fulfilled the prophecy. That's right. You don't know. You've nothing to fear. Why? I'm their son, Merope, Polybus. Polybus was nothing to you. That's why not in blood. What do you mean? Polybus wasn't my father? No more than I am. He and I are equals. See, that really sets Oedipus off. Polybus, king of Corinth, the messenger, a lowly servant. How can you equate yourself with the king? How can my father equal nothing? Oedipus has just told the messenger, you are nothing. You're nothing to me. Messenger, neither was he, no more your father than I am. What should be going in Oedipus's mind at this point? Then why did he call me his son? Well, I gave you to him. He loved me deep. Well, of course he did. Do parents who adopt not love their children? Those adopted children? Of course they do. Where did you get me? Oedipus asks. Find me? Buy me? No, I was, a shepherd, and another guy brought you, and I took you from him. And when you got me, 11:30, was I in pain? Look at your ankles. They'll tell you the story. He goes, really? You had to bring that up? You had to bring up my deformity? He says, it's where you got your name from. Who did it? Who made me this way? I don't know. The one who gave you to me, he would know. Okay. Who was he a servant? Let's see, what was that guy's name? Leroy? Laius. That's who he was. Jocasta turned sharply. Why? Jocasta knows. She's not the tragic hero, but that's her moment of, to use the Greek term that Aristotle uses in his Poetics, anagnoresis. That's her moment of recognition. When the messenger says, you were given to me by a shepherd of Laius's, all those lights have just gone on in her mind. The king of the land, yep, that's him. The herdsman was his man. Oedipus, is he still alive? You can tell me. And the leader goes, I think that's the one you sent for. Jocasta, why ask, old shepherd? Talk, empty nonsense. Don't give it another thought. Oedipus, what? Give up a clue like this? Fail to solve the mystery of my birth? Stop in the name of God if you love your own life. Call off this search. My suffering is enough. What does she mean, my suffering is enough? Enough for whom? Enough for her? What does she mean by her suffering? Have we heard about her suffering up until this point? Nope. What did I just say she knows? She knows Oedipus is her son. When she says my suffering is enough, she's saying my suffering, Oedipus, it's enough for both of us. She's also saying, if this bottle contained her suffering, notice it's no longer full. Hers would be full. She's like, just a little bit more and it's going to send me over the top. What does it also imply? She says, stop. If you love your own life, call off this search. My suffering is enough. Also implies what? What is she willing to do? Let's assume for the moment Oedipus says, yes, dear, anything to make you happy. Happy wife, happy life. Stops the search. What are they going to do from that day on? Are they suddenly going to live a celibate marriage? I don't think so. She's saying, we'll go on the way we've been going. And she will suffer through it. But Oedipus won't, because he won't know. Oedipus, Courage! Be brave, honey. Even if my mother turns out to be a slave and I a slave. What's he still thinking? Okay, so the baby may have come from Laius, but it doesn't mean it's Laius's baby. Maybe Laius, told some slave girl, you have to kill your child because we can't afford another mouth or whatever. Oh no, listen to me. Let me back up. Even if my mother turns out to be a slave and I a slave, 3 generations back, you would not seem common. What does he think is going on in Yocasta's mind? He thinks that she's bothered by the possibility he might be a slave. She's the queen. Queens don't marry slaves. The fact that she's the queen, if he's a slave, then he brought her down to his level. He says, you'll never seem common. Listen to me, I beg you, don't do this. He says, I must know it all. I must see, notice, see the truth at last. Here he was railing on about Tiresias not being able to see. No, please, for your sake, I want the best for you. And that's, I think, again, emphasizes or reinforces the notion, don't go there. I just want you to live happy. You're doomed. May you never fathom who you are. What's it mean to fathom? It's a naval term or shipping term, mariner's term. When you fathom the water, you're counting the fathoms down. You're trying to figure out how deep it is. When she says, may you never fathom who you are, she says, may you never come to the truth of your existence. May you never plumb the depths of your, what? Iniquity? Hamartia? She runs inside. Man of agony, that is the only name I have for you, that no other, ever, ever, ever. She runs inside, and the leader says, where's she gone, Oedipus? Because notice we're told, stage directions, a long, tense silence follows. They're just standing there on the stage for several seconds, and they don't hear anything inside. Oedipus, the leader, I'm afraid that from this silence something monstrous may come bursting forth. It's a pregnant silence, in other words. Okay? I must know my birth, no matter how common. He's still thinking he's lowly born. Okay? So, chorus gets a few lines. Oedipus sees a figure coming in from the distance. And Oedipus says, is this the shepherd? And the leader says, I think so. The shepherd comes in, speaks to the messenger. Oedipus speaks to the messenger. He goes, that's him. That's the guy who gave me the baby. Oedipus asks, did you serve King Laius? He said, yeah, a long time ago. What kind of work? Herded, etc. Where? Kithaeron. You know this man? Oedipus points to the messenger from Corinth. And he looks at him. Doing what? What man? This one right here. I don't know. Messenger. No wonder he doesn't know me. Let me refresh his memory. And so he tells a story. Shepherd, yeah, I read this. That was a long time ago. You gave me a child back then, a boy, remember? Little fellow. Why rake that up again? Why the verb rake? Why not, why bring that up again? Rake implies what? Don't think verb rake, think of the noun rake, a rake. What do you do with a rake? You uncover something. Why rake that up again? Why bring something that was hidden back into the light? He said, look, old friend, this is the baby. Damn you, shut your mouth. Why? What's the old shepherd afraid of? Why did he run or beg to be able to serve outside the palace once Oedipus arrived? Because he knew Laius' killer. He saw Laius' killer. Okay? So, Oedipus threatens him with torture and such, and then starts to what is essentially like a cross-examination, just these short questions. I gave the baby to him. Where did you get it? Your house? Someone else's. 1278 and so. Wasn't mine. I got it from someone else. Which? Oedipus points to the chorus. Whose house? No. Your dead man, Laius' house. Was it a slave or born of his own blood? I'm right at the edge, the horrible truth. I've got to say it. Why has he got to say it? Because he's being forced to. And I'm at the edge of hearing horrors. Yes, but I must hear. Notice, Oedipus implies that he knows he's got that recognition, but he doesn't have the proof. I don't think he has the recognition fully yet. He realizes he's on the knife's edge. He's on the precipice. All right, his son. They said it was his son. But the one inside, your wife, she'd tell it best. Notice he doesn't say, but the one inside, your mother. My wife, she gave it to you? Yes, my king. Why? What for? To kill it. Her own child? How could she? She was afraid. Frightening prophecies. They said he killed his parents. So why did you give him to this guy? I pitied the baby. Master hoped he'd take him off to his own country, but he saved him for this fate. That is, notice what the old shepherd has just done. He's passed the buck. He, this messenger, saved him/you so that you would perform your fate. Who's actually the one who did the saving? The one who gave the baby to him. Who's actually the ones who did the saving? Laius and Jocasta. How? How do they cause their fate to come about? By not slitting his throat when he was born. Why? Because that wasn't their fate. Again, if you take that idea of fate, you can't escape it. Okay? So, Oedipus says, "O God," 1306, "all come true, all burst to light." What's the all? All the prophecies. The prophecies Laius and Jocasta received, the prophecy Oedipus received, the prophecy Creon received. Okay? Now let me look my last on you. I stand revealed at last. Revealed. So if he stands revealed at last, what was he before? What's revealed the opposite of? Hidden. In darkness. Now he's in the light. Cursed in my birth, cursed in marriage, cursed in the lives I cut down with these hands. And he rushes through the palace doors. And the chorus goes on. Oh, the generations of dying men, the dying generations, adding the total of all your lives, I find they come to nothing. What does that mean? All the lives of humanity up until that point come to what? Zilch. We don't matter. We don't have meaning. It's that nihilism, existentialism thing I talked about. Does there exist, is there a man on earth who sees as more joy than just a dream, a vision? In other words, is there real joy? No. It's just a fleeting moment. And the vision no sooner dawns than dies blazing into oblivion. You're my example, Oedipus. In other words, Oedipus is everyone. I count no man blessed. Now, chorus is going to change that just slightly in its final speech, in its Exodus. And the chorus tells us, Oedipus, you outranged all men. See, in Aristotle, in his Poetics, when he talks about the tragic protagonist, he says that protagonist should not come from the lowly born or the highborn. It should be kind of middle. Why? It should be somebody that the mass of people, the audience, the citizens, can identify with and look up to. So we see somebody rise to greatness and glory, and we go, wow, wish I could be like that. I should follow that person's footsteps. Then we see that recognition and that reversal and that downfall. And at that point, the idea is, so we have all this tension built up, and we see that downfall, and that tension gets expunged, it gets purgated from us. It's called catharsis, okay? So that at the end, we come to this mentality of there but for the grace of God go I. Meaning, if I were in Oedipus's shoes, how would I behave differently? Well, back then, not knowing what we know now, how would we have behaved? We wouldn't. We would have done the exact same thing. The idea is, but now, if this kind of situation ever arises, I'll know what to do or not to do, okay? So they go on and on about how wonderful Oedipus was, and then how time dragged him into the truth, okay? Messenger comes out of the palace and says, the queen is dead. How did she kill herself? Notice, she does kill herself. She takes her sash off, wraps it around her neck, and hangs herself. Where does she do this? Over the marriage bed. Why? Because that bed's gotten pretty fouled and dirty over the last 20 plus years. So Oedipus rushes in, he finds her, and in her clothing, in her dress, she's got these two brooches, stick pins, keeping the thing closed. Oedipus pulls those out, opens the pins, and gouges his eyes out. All of that occurs off stage. The suicide occurs off stage, murders, all that kind of stuff occurs off stage in Greek drama. It was thought not to be appropriate to see that, okay? But he comes out with gore. If you see a modern production, his eyes will be black and he'll have blood and stuff dripping down his face, okay? So, Oedipus comes out and says, the agony, I am agony, 1442 or so. Where on earth, where does all this agony hurl me? Where's my voice, my destiny, my dark power? What a leap you made. Chorus says, to the depths of terror, dark horror of darkness. Remember how Oedipus mocked Tiresias for being blind? For always going about in the darkness? Now Oedipus will, okay? So, Oedipus and chorus go back and forth quite a bit. And then he gets a long speech from 1500 to 1550. He essentially says, I had to do this. I had to do this. Why? Because he couldn't bear the sight of his children anymore. He had to do this, blinding himself, because when he dies, he can't look his parents in the face. The implication is, I'll still be physically blind. All right? And he won't be able to look Polybus in the face, etc. Creon comes in. Oedipus is like, oh man, what can I say to him? I mean, he accused Creon. So, Creon asks, what do you want? Because Oedipus says, do one more thing for me. What do you want? Drive me out of the land. Exile me. But he wants more than that. What else does he want? Bury the woman inside. He doesn't say my wife. He doesn't say the queen. He doesn't say my mother. He just says bury the woman inside. She at least deserves that. And then he says, as for me, never bury me in Thebes. Just let my body rot on the mountain. Oh, a couple other things. take care of my daughters. Why? The bottom of that paragraph, stanza, line 1600, he says, my sons are men, you don't have to worry about them. But my daughters, who we're going to see in just a moment, are little girls, like 8 and 10 or 10 and 12. Okay? So, they're brought out. Oedipus holds them. He feels their faces. He talks to them. He wonders if they'll ever marry, because who in the world is going to marry them after the story of Oedipus gets out? Okay. Again, ask Creon to care for them. Creon says, that's enough. Get in the palace. All right? So, drive me out of Thebes. Drive me into exile. Don't worry. Oedipus, Creon doesn't say, well, of course that's what I'm going to do. He says, not I. The gods will do that. Okay? Surely the gods, you'll get your wish, just so. Oedipus and Creon go inside. And the chorus gets the final speech, as it does in every Greek tragedy. It's called the Exodus, the final leaving. Listen to the chorus. Actually, just one moment. 1675, Creon gets the last words before the chorus. Still the king, master of all things. This is after Oedipus has walked inside. No more. Here your power ends. None of your power follows you through life. What does Oedipus lose by the end of the play? He loses his children. He loses his sight. He loses his wife. He loses his mother. Sum that up. He loses everything. He doesn't die. Why? Because he is condemned to live a long, painful life because of his curse. Then we get the chorus. People of Thebes, my countrymen, look on Oedipus. There's another translation that says, mark Oedipus. And that means take note of. Because look on just means, well, look at that. It means examine him. He solved the famous riddle with his brilliance. He rose to power, a man beyond all power. Who could behold his greatness without envy? Now what a black sea of terror has overwhelmed him. So you get all these positive things, and then this terror has overwhelmed him. Why? The chorus is kind of saying, you know, maybe be happy where you are in life. Do you really want to rise that big? Because, you know, it's a lot easier to fall from here than it is from here. Now, as we keep our watch and wait the final day. What's the final day? Death. As we keep our watch, like they're guards or sentinels, holding forth and just waiting for the end to come. What? Count no man happy till he dies. But it doesn't end there. Now as we keep our watch and wait the final day, count no man happy till he dies, free of pain at last. What is Sophocles suggesting? Sophocles, not the chorus. Life is what? Life is pain, and then you die. And the implication is, any kind of joy, any kind of beauty, any kind of blessing is really what? It's a vision. It's ephemeral. It doesn't last. What does last? Think Sardi. The one constant. The old fierce pull of blood. But it's not the old fierce pull of blood. What's the one constant? According to Sophocles, pain. And then you die. And then you're free of pain and happy. Okay, we'll stop there. I'll grade the quizzes, exams, sorry. Today, it won't be like first thing this afternoon or whatever. If you want to find out how you did, because it's like the quizzes, I don't think you will see how you did. Send me an email today and I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll just send a number, 118 over 100 or whatever, something like that. All right. Read Antigone for Wednesday. It's on the PDF linked on the syllabus and in the content tab